The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. Michel de Montaigne. You have already made the first step by being here today. This is already an act of self-love. This is the beginning of loving yourself. Welcome home, K. Azizian. What we believe about ourselves becomes the framework for how we teach others to treat us. The most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. Most of us are surrounded by others for the majority of our day, but how often do we feel seen, heard, or truly valued? Imagine that you are walking in the woods in the early hours of the morning, just as the fog is rolling in. The sounds of the forest surround you. Birds chirping, squirrels running, and maybe a deer walking over a stick in the distance. There is no one else for miles, and there is a stillness in the solitude, perhaps even a peacefulness. Here, you're alone, but you aren't lonely. The concept of loneliness often elicits a sense of physical isolation, such as the image of a solitary person standing in the middle of a dense forest. However, if you reflect on the times when you feel most lonely, this image rarely comes to mind. As Mother Teresa explains, the most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. In other words, loneliness can be most poignant when we feel misunderstood and unaccepted. Most of us are surrounded by others for the majority of our day, but how often do we feel seen, heard, or truly valued? Consider a time when you reached out to someone for reassurance or support during a trying time, and instead of being met with compassion and curiosity, they blamed you for the situation. What about a time when you were out with a group of friends, but you realized that you were the only one not included in the various conversations stirring around you? These examples likely feel more like loneliness, because loneliness does not come from being alone, but from feeling unvalued. When these situations of acute loneliness arise, we often try to remedy them by leaning into the relationships or people that are making us feel lonely. We try to be better in hopes that they will treat us better. We take responsibility for their actions because it gives us a sense of control over our loneliness. However, no matter how diligently we try to change ourselves, we cannot control others' actions, even if those actions leave us feeling lonely, misunderstood, or ostracized in the process. We often relinquish beloved parts of ourselves for the sake of fitting in or alleviating the isolation. As Richard Brautigan says, "For fear of being alone, you do so many things that aren't you at all." Belonging comes first by coming home to yourself. That is to say, you must first believe that you deserve to be valued, understood, and included. If you act as if you add no value to the world, then you are more likely to surround yourself with others who treat you as such. What we believe about ourselves becomes the framework for how we teach others to treat us. As Brené Brown says, because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. The act of radical self-love is a continual process of intentionality. And today, I invite you to begin that process by reflecting on who you are. We are all the summation of our experiences, choices, and personality, the positives and the negatives. When we focus on only one aspect of ourselves, we begin to see a skewed view of who we are. If we are expecting to find the negative qualities about ourselves, we will. Conversely, if we are expecting to find the positives, we will. Consider for a moment when the fall colors begin to change. Gradually, you begin to notice the leaves turning to vibrant blooms on the tree. Once you notice the first inkling of colors, it becomes increasingly ubiquitous. You may notice several trees that are changing near your house or on your drive to work, when you wouldn't have given a second thought to them the day before. You now expect to see the changing of the seasons. So you do. Were there significantly more leaves emerging than the day before? Likely not. But you noticed them because you were expecting to see them. Therefore, they seemed bountiful overnight. Our minds work similarly when we reflect on our sense of worth, value, and belonging. If we intentionally focus on the aspects of ourselves and our lives that cultivate a sense of belonging and self-value, then they will begin to appear. If we focus on reasons why we are lonely or undeserving of love, those too will begin to emerge. In this way, we have the ability to cultivate a sense of belonging within ourselves that paves the path for others in our life to follow. Cultivating a sense of belonging and value within yourself is an active and ongoing choice that you must make every day. At first glance, this sounds exhausting, but so is continuing to feel the weight of solitude. You have already made the first step by being here today. This is already an act of self-love. As Kay Azizian says, this is the beginning of loving yourself. Welcome home.